Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver, and we've got an absolutely loaded, jam-packed, whatever word you want to use, type of show today. Divisional weekend has concluded. We got 4 teams left. The final 4 in the NFL. If we're being completely honest, it's probably the best. The last 4 teams in are probably the best 4 teams and have been all season long. You've got, obviously, out in the NFC, the Eagles, who will be hosting the Niners next weekend in the city of brotherly love, the biggest oxymoron in sports. And in the AFC title game, you've got the Cincinnati Bengals going to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. I will discuss all 4 teams win, obviously starting with the Cowboys-Niners game in just a second. And at the end of today's show, I'm going to be doing something that I don't normally do in the show, but once, probably 2-3 times a year. So I'm already getting one out of the way here in January. I will be making a very, very special announcement, not just for this show. If you think about it, my personal life too. This is a life-altering decision that you guys are going to hear on Carving Up Live in about an hour. Stay tuned for that. But there's no other way to start the show than with what was, in all likelihood, the most watched game over the weekend, for obvious reasons. The Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. Dallas lost the game 19-12, or I should say more appropriately, San Francisco won the game 19-12 in what was a defensive battle all game long, and they will be going to the NFC Championship game for the 3rd time in the last 4 seasons. I will absolutely get to the Niners side in just a second because God knows they deserve their shine. To Dallas. And you guys know, I cut ties with being a Cowboys fan in October of 2020 to just be solely a Dak fan. So essentially, I've been almost like a free agent fan, if you will. And last night, because it was technically a night game here on the East Coast, last night is the first time that I can truly, honest to God, say Dak Prescott is far and away, by a mile, it's not even close, the biggest reason. Not the reason. There's plenty of reasons they lost the game. There's always plenty of reasons a team wins or loses. But the biggest reason the Cowboys lost the game. It's almost like a complete reverse of last week, right? Dak plays amazing. Defense plays amazing. Running game's great. Coaching's great. All the above. But I said Dak was the reason they won last week because he played the best game of his career. Well, this week, it's a literal reverse. Did Dak play the worst game of his career? Of course not. That came in Washington. Dak was way worse in Washington than he was last night. But, listen, and I'll get to the Cowboys skill position players in just a second because outside of CeeDee Lamb, they deserve plenty of blame as well. However, Dak was inaccurate. Dak was rattled. Both picks, particularly the second one, without a doubt. The first one, I felt like there was a little bit of holding on Gallup, but it still wasn't a good decision by Dak. The second one, 1,000% was his fault. It should have been picked by Charvarius Ward. He dropped it, went through his hands, but right into the hands of the best linebacker in the league, Fred Warner. And could very well been a 9 to 10 point swing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, late in the first half, game's tied 6-6. Dallas is in the red zone with about a minute left in the half. It's like, okay, Cowboys got the momentum. They're holding one of the best offenses in the league with one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league, sturdy Brock Purdy. I'll get to him later in the show. To 6 points in the first half. I think you take that in a heartbeat. You're in the red zone. You force a 3-yard pass to CeeDee Lamb that's not there. I'm all for forcing the ball to CeeDee Lamb when you've got absolutely nobody else to throw to, not on short throws. Okay, and by the way, it wasn't even an accurate pass for that matter. Should have been picked by Charvarius Ward. It was not, but his buddy Fred Warner picked it off. It completely changed the complexion of the game because the Niners ended up going down the field on a big play from Purdy to my man Juwan Jennings, and they got a Robbie Gould field goal out of it, and Robbie Gould still has yet to miss a postseason field goal. Props to him. But if Dallas goes and scores, let's say they score, and let's say Brett Maher does what he's been doing the last 3 weeks now, not just 2, the last 3 weeks, and misses the extra point. Okay, no harm, no foul. It's 9-3, and I'm sorry, 13-6, no, 12-6, rather, in all likelihood, going to the locker room. Instead, you throw a bad pick, Niners go down the field, and they're up 9-6, and the complete feel and the complexion of the game changes drastically. Even on Dak's good plays, the bomb to CeeDee Lamb was a badly underthrown ball. If Dak hits Lamb in stride, he may score for what would have been like a 90-something yard touchdown. Did put enough arm into it. I've always said Dak's got a better arm than people give him credit for. He did not show it off there. It was a windy day in San Francisco. I don't know if that played into it, but he has got to lead CeeDee Lamb more in that pass down the field. And then I think it was later in that drive, he hit CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee dropped. It could have been a better pass, but I wasn't necessarily mad about that. My issue was, if you watch that play, he's got T.Y. Hilton streaking across the field to his left, wide open. Like, I'm fine. Again, I'm fine with being locked into CeeDee Lamb, kind of like Matt Stafford was Cooper Kupp last year, but T.Y. Hilton was open. You got to go in that situation, and it's a minimum 20-yard gain. Later in the game, he missed Michael Gallup on a deep ball. So there's plenty of blame to go around. Trayvon Diggs dropped 2 interceptions. Ezekiel Elliott was completely ineffective. Plenty of blame to go around. I thought it was a poorly called game by Kellen Moore. But 85 to 90% of the blame falls on number 4. There's no way around it. Even as a Dak Prescott fan, a guy who wears his hat 90% of my shows throughout the year, this one falls on him. There's no question about it. He did not play well. And this honestly, I can say, Dak's played 6 playoff games. He's 2-4 in them. But of those 6, this is the first one I can honestly say he played bad in. People say, well, what about last year against San Francisco? He was off. He only scored 17 points. But on 4th and 10, with 3 49ers pressuring him, he did deliver a deep ball that should have been caught by Cedric Wilson. So we could talk about, he put his team in position to win on that second to last drive. He dropped it. It is what it is. But Dak's first playoff game against Aaron Rodgers, he was magnificent. Okay, put up 31 points, threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, the whole bit. Played great in the second game against Seattle. Made the play of the game that ended up winning the game with that 3rd and 14 run. Played pretty darn well against the Los Angeles Rams. Had a QBR in the 70s. Problem was his defense gave up 300 yards rushing. Last year against the Niners, didn't play that well, but put them in position to win on the second to last drive on 4th and long. Obviously against Tampa last week is the best playoff game. It's the best game he's ever played. And then last night is the first time I can genuinely say he is far and away, not even close, the biggest reason the Dallas Cowboys lost that game yesterday. There's no doubt about it. Again, Trayvon dropped 1 pick, should have had another on the George Kittle crazy circus bobble. Okay, Micah Parsons was outshone by his man DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence, I thought, had a great game. So did Oza Odigizua. Micah Parsons was largely ineffective against Trent Williams. Right outside that, Leighton Vander Esch played well. Rest defense played great. Dan Quinn had a great defensive game plan. That's the first off game I've seen from Brock Purdy. You could say some of that's because he was a rookie. A lot of that had to do with Dan Quinn's defensive game plan. Deebo Samuel was ineffective. Outside of that one short field touchdown, Christian McCaffrey was largely a non-factor. Dallas' defense played well enough to win the game. They held one of the best offenses in the league to 19 points on the road. Quarterback's got to play better. There's no other way around it. You watch this show for me to call a spade, and that's what I do. Even if it's my guy, even if it's the guy who I supported since before he was a Cowboy, got to call it the way I see it. Dak played bad. He did. There's no other way around it. He played a bad football game against the San Francisco 49ers. Ryan Flowers, what's up, Ryan? He says, what's up? Ryan is a Cowboys fan. I'm sure he's not feeling the greatest today. I can understand that. And Patrick Brown, also a Cowboys fan. By the way, both guys are at the Grid Network. Please check out their shows whenever you get the chance. Patrick says, the misery continues for my Cowboys. Listen, as a former member of Cowboys Nation, I completely understand exactly where you're coming from. That's one thing I'll say about Cowboys fans, man. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. One of the most loyal fan bases I've ever seen in sports. Like, no doubt about it. So hats off to them. Now, here's what bothers me. So I got done criticizing Dak. He played awful given the circumstances and given the opportunities that he had. Dak played bad. There's no sugarcoating it. Here's where my problem is, though. When people try to spin it. Well, Cooper Rush would have won that game. Really? A lot of the logic people use with the whole Cooper Rush is better than Dak Prescott weird nonsense is, well, Cooper Rush doesn't throw interceptions. Well, that is until he faces good defenses. Against Philly, he threw not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions. against the Philadelphia Eagles. Dak threw 2. We know interceptions have been a huge problem for Dak Prescott this season. But this notion that Cooper Rush, who's immobile, doesn't have a great arm, accuracy comes and goes, turnover prone against good defenses, and can't play from behind, let's stop with this. So, as for the San Francisco 49ers, an underwhelming performance from their offense. Again, some of that had to do with Dallas's defense. Brock Purdy was good enough in the fourth quarter. Through the first 3, he was pretty quiet. Had a couple of nice throws. He had one beautiful throw down the seams to Kittle, who really was the only major factor for San Francisco's offense. O-line played well. They ran the ball for over 100 yards, but only on 3.5 yards a clip. But defensively is where they got it done. Nick Bosa played well. Fred Warner was excellent. That Hufanga kid, I pointed this dude out in like week 4 when they played the Rams, when he had like a pick 6 against Matthew Stafford. This dude's going to make a lot of Pro Bowls and a lot of All-Pros in the future. He is phenomenal. Fast, incredible instincts, just will thump you. Kid is a phenomenal player. Niners found another diamond in the rough. Like, this guy's going to be something else. He's a first-team All-Pro. Actually, I don't know if he's first team, but he was an All-Pro his rookie year in the NFL. He's going to make a lot more of those in the future. But for the Niners defense, this is what they've been all season long. Team that takes the ball away, team that stops the run, a team that's great against the pass, takes the ball away, is obviously well coached. If D'Amico Ryans does not have a head coaching job this hiring cycle, I can't help these teams that are looking for a coach. I can't. I don't know what more that you want. I could be wrong. Maybe he's one of those guys that's just a great coordinator and a terrible head coach. I don't know. All I know is, as good as that defense was a few years ago under Robert Saleh, who obviously is now the head coach of the New York Jets, it won this. It won this under Robert Saleh the way it is under D'Amico Ryans. That the speed which they fly around the field is ridiculous. That they're outstanding. So hats off to the 49ers. And again, look, an off game by Brock Purdy, I get it. He's going to clean it up. This notion, and can I tell you something I hate about the media narrative about Brock Purdy? I hate it. We're waiting for his rookie moment. My question is, why? We got to stop letting a guy's draft positioning affect how we think about him as a quarterback in terms of what you're seeing on the field. If he's good, he's good. You say, well, he's got all the playmakers around him. So Jimmy Garoppolo, and so did a guy that I loved out of the draft a couple of years back, Trey Lance. They didn't look this good under the Niners offense. They didn't show this kind of arm strength, mobility, poise. I mean, he's got a nice little sidearm delivery. Runs the offense to perfection. So, I mean, it's like, years ago, when was Ben Roethlisberger's rookie moment back in 2004? I mean, listen, I was a year old at the time, but name it. He didn't really have one. He got Pittsburgh to the AFC Championship game. He had a great rookie year. Dak Prescott in 2016. Where was his quote-unquote rookie moment? What, a meaningless game in December against the Giants? Like, I don't know why we keep waiting for this for Brock Purdy. He's poised. He's accurate. He's got a really good arm. He's very mobile. I mean, some of those plays that broke down for Brock Purdy because the secondary had everything tightened up where he was rolling out, Jimmy G would have either been sacked on those plays or thrown a bad interception on those plays. Niners fans, you guys know what I'm talking about. So hats off to Brock Purdy. Listen, he wasn't great through the first 3, but he got it done when it mattered most in the fourth quarter. Challenge is going to be no joke next week, though, against Philadelphia, because I'll talk about the Eagles later in the show. Man, I guess the bye week is just what the doctor ordered for the Philadelphia Eagles. They look absolutely out of this world, without a question. That's going to be a good NFC Championship game. Patrick Brown in the comments, he says, Kellen Moore, Kellen less. Agreed, Patrick. The last play of the game, he took a page out of Indy's playbook. Even Kyle Shanahan couldn't believe it. As a lifelong Cowboys fan since 91, this hurts my core. I can imagine. I can absolutely imagine. Now, to that, I did want to address that last play. Thank you for bringing it up, Patrick. As bad as the last play of the game was last year against the 49ers, the Dak quarterback draw with 14 seconds left and no timeouts, as bad as it was, and it was a horrendous call and horrendous execution for that matter, you could at least see the reasoning behind it. I totally disagree with it, but you get where they're coming from. Like Dak, run 12 yards, slide, get up and clock it. Problem was Dak ran like 20 yards, so it took another couple seconds off the clock. It was a disaster getting the ball set. But my thing is, don't even put the ball, don't even put the game in the hands of the ref. That's kind of always been my thing with all sports, that play included. I could at least kind of see where they were coming from. That having Zeke snap the ball to Dak, he throws a 4-yard or like a 5-yard curl to Kevontae Turpin, who gets absolutely blown up by, was it Dre Greenlaw? I think it was Dre Greenlaw who made the tackle. He had a big game as well. He should have been an All-Pro this year, as far as I'm concerned. Was it Greenlaw who made the tackle? No, Ward. It was Javarius Ward who made the tackle. My bad. It looked like Dre Greenlaw the way he was hit. That was. I don't really know what the Cowboys were hoping to execute on that last play. That was something else. Last point on Dallas, though, or a couple points on Dallas. The first on the head coach. I'm hearing a lot of folks saying today, Cowboys need to consider firing Mike McCarthy. Jerry Jones after the game and doing his press conference, which, as I always say, every owner does that. Every owner in the NFL always does a press conference. It is something that is totally normal, especially when you get great sound bites and great wisdom like this.
There's a pony in here somewhere is the old adage with the boy scooping up the manure on Christmas Day and whistling while he was doing it. Here comes Santa Claus.
You put him in front of the mic, you get gold. But Jerry said after the game, McCarthy's job is safe. Like unequivocally, which he said last week. And I said this on Thursday or Friday's show. I think it was Thursday's show. What's the rationale other than hiring Sean Payton, which again, why in God's name would Sean Payton want the Dallas job being overruled on every decision he makes by Jerry Jones? I've said this for years on the show. Sean Payton would be an idiot to take the Cowboys job. But for Dallas, my question is, why would you fire McCarthy? Aside from hiring Sean Payton, he won 6 games his first year. By the way, Dak only played 5 of them. You doubled your wins to 12, won your division, but you lost your first playoff game. In year 2, you win another 12 games, and you win a playoff game, by the way, against the greatest quarterback of all time, on the road. Like, from my perspective, Cowboys have actually gotten better every year under Mike McCarthy. Can't say that under Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett, what was it? 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 12-4, 4-12, 13-3, 7-9, 10-6, 8-8. Like that's Jason. They call Jeff Fisher Mr. 7-9. Jason Garrett's Mr. 8-8. You knew what you were getting, and that was a roller coaster for the Dallas Cowboys. This year, they were pretty consistently good. Pretty consistently good. Better than most in the NFC. So I don't get the rationale. Kellen Moore, different story, but Mike McCarthy, I don't see why you would. And then on Dak Prescott's side, so you heard me obviously bash the guy because I love Dak, but he kind of deserved it. After how he played. And there's sort of a lot, there's kind of this narrative, should the Cowboys move on from Dak? Before I get to the logic side of it, let me just get to the financial side of it. It would be a stupid decision, okay? Dak's cap hit, I think, is like $49 million. You move him, you want to talk about cap hell. You're screwed. You're essentially in barely a less stable situation than the Denver Broncos are with Russell Wilson. That's why Denver can't move on from Russell. They're stuck. So you might as well have him on the team if you're going to pay him all that money. Because it's a total waste if you trade him to like Indianapolis and you're still paying him $50 million a year. So you might as well keep him. Same situation. Now, Dak's obviously better than Russell, but it's a similar rationale. You trade Dak, you guarantee yourself being in the cellar for the next 2 years before you can finally make a decision as to who you're going to take a quarterback in the draft or if you go after one in free agency. But as for the notion that Dallas should trade Dak, move on from Dak after this season, and I'm about to get to this in my second segment about the Bengals and the Bills because it kind of plays right into it's a great segue. I was talking to Ryan Flowers. I don't know if Ryan's still in the chat. Shout out to Ryan Flowers, host of Clutch Sports Talk. We were texting throughout the game last night. And he texted me something. And initially I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. But the more I sat back and thought about it, the more I slept on it, I was like, actually, he's kind of right, which, Ryan Flowers is right about a lot of things, so I shouldn't be all that surprised. But he's right the more I thought about it. There's Mahomes, there's Burrow, and there's everybody else. Yes, there's upper echelons. There's your Trevor Lawrence's, who, by the way, I think Trevor Lawrence is right on the precipice of being in that class with Mahomes and Burrow. I think he needs at least an AFC Championship Game appearance to put himself in that position. You've got your Josh Allens and your Jalen Hurts and your Justin Herberts, your Dak Prescotts, your Lamar Jacksons, your Derek Carr. You guys know I love Derek Carr. But unless you have Mahomes or Burrow, the roster has to be darn near perfect in order to make a run with everybody else. Now, there's some guys like a Baker Mayfield, for example, who flat out can't do it. They gave him a perfect roster in Cleveland. He can't do it. It's as simple as that. There's a hard ceiling. Daniel Jones, of course, it's not a perfect roster with the Giants, but you get the idea. Think about Matt Stafford last year. Perfect roster in LA. Year before that, Tom Brady. Perfect roster in Tampa. Year before that, a few years before that, Philadelphia. Nick Foles ain't supposed to win a Super Bowl. Well, he did because he had the perfect roster around him and a phenomenal coach. Like that's the reality of today's NFL. So the reality is Dak's there for the next 2 years. I have always been a belief he can win a Super Bowl in Dallas so long as they put the talent around him. He's not the type of guy like a Mahomes or Allen. Sorry, not Mahomes, Allen. My bad. That's blasphemous. Mahomes or Burrow, who can carry you there regardless of the surrounding talent. Although I do think Cincinnati has a really good roster. Everybody else, you kind of need the perfect set of guys around them and the perfect coach. And Dallas doesn't have that. McCarthy's a better coach, I think, that people give him credit for, but he's by no means in the class of Andy Reid or even Zach Taylor for that matter. Cowboys defense is excellent. I got no bones to pick with them. But offensively, did you notice those last few drives? Even as much as Dak struggled, who did he keep going to? 88, CeeDee Lamb. He didn't trust Gallup for good reason. Didn't trust Noah Brown for great reason. He didn't really go to Schultz that much. Like once the game really changed when Tony Pollard went down the first half. By the way, prayers up to Tony Pollard. He's even if Dallas had won the game, he would have been ready for the Super Bowl if Dallas had gotten there. I think I read he's gonna be out like 3 months with a broken leg, which comes at a terrible time for him going into free agency. So hope he still gets his money. I know Dallas fans are hoping to keep him. Don't blame him. He was a Pro Bowler this year. He was certainly the superior of the two backs to Zeke. So speaking of Zeke, Dallas may need to consider move on from him because cap-wise and frankly, based on on-field production, it would make all the sense in the world. And I'll probably talk more about the Cowboys offseason because that's always a topic of conversation more on Thursday's show. But as far as the game, did they lose to the better team? Yeah, they did. But the biggest reason for that loss comes on my man. I'll say his name. Rain Dakota Prescott. Moving on to the Bengals and the Bills. Probably the best quarterback matchup, certainly the most anticipated quarterback matchup that we were looking forward to this past weekend. And the Cincinnati Bengals did not leave a doubt from the jump. 27-10. Now, I picked the Buffalo Bills going in for the simple fact of this. Allen's biggest problem, interceptions and turnovers as a whole, was in his control. Joe Burrow's biggest problem, which was a beat-up offensive line, that's not in his control. It's in his control how he handles it, but in terms of just flat-out fixing the problem, that's not up to Joe. The coaches and Burrow himself can make it as easy as possible or as manageable as possible, but credit to the Bengals offensive line. Without Jonah Williams, Alex Kappa, and Lyle Collins out of the lineup, they gave up 1 sack. And the Bengals ran for 172 yards, which, by the way, the second highest team rushing total by the Cincinnati Bengals this season, 172 yards. That 1 sack given up was tied for the least they've given up this season. So credit to the backups for stepping in. You guys know I ranted about it all last season with the Bengals. I said it is unthinkable, unimaginable what Joe Burrow is doing with literally the worst offensive line in the league. Dude was getting hit every play. And now those backups who come in, they did their job. For Cincinnati, I'm not so sure I've seen efficient quarterbacking like that, I'm going to say it, since a prime Tom Brady. I'm talking accuracy. I'm talking taking advantage of mismatches down the field. I'm talking about scanning a defense. I'm talking about here's the thing that Joe Burrow can bring that Tom Brady could never bring. That was mobility. You saw Joe Burrow run for a first down this game. The calm. Now, Joe's a different leader than Tom. Tom's the more fiery leader. Joe's the more kind of like Trevor Lawrence, very cool, calm, collected, lead by example. Not a big rah-rah guy, but listen, there's different ways to leadership. I've always said that. Play into what makes you great. And Joe Burrow certainly does that. Again, Mahomes is the best. I don't think there's a question about that. But in terms of just playing the position, in terms of being an efficient quarterback, I don't think there's anybody in the league better than Joe Burrow at that. And something else too, sort of shifting to Buffalo now. I'll get to Josh Allen. But there's one guy coming in I did not think I'd be criticizing. Leslie Frazier. And if you want to throw Sean McDermott in because he's a defensive coach, feel free. That defensive game plan by Buffalo made literally no sense. Since you know it going in, 3 of the 5 starting offensive linemen for the Cincinnati Bengals are gone. You assume you should be able to get pressure with 4, which initially they really couldn't do. You know the Bengals. Obviously, the Bengals know 3 of the 5 offensive linemen are down. So what are they going to do? The same thing they did last year. Just take what the defense gives you. Get the ball. Against very New England Patriots with Tom Brady-esque. Get the ball out of your hands quickly and just methodical drive down the field, run the football. You knew that's what was coming. Why didn't you press? Why were your DBs not at the line of scrimmage every single play? Even when they blitzed and got pressure, by the way, on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 7, they backed off. It makes literally no sense. And what drove me crazy, and I criticize Brandon Staley about this all the time. He's the worst coach of the league, along with Matt LaFleur, when it comes to halftime adjustments. I'm not so sure, at least after, I know it's just one game, but I'm not so sure I'm not having to start putting Sean McDermott in that group as well. That was awful. Like that is as unimaginable, as bad of a defensive game plan, given you know the weaknesses of Cincinnati's offense, and you play right into their hands, and you do nothing to stop it. For the life, by the way, it's a snowstorm. So you think that would favor you. Cincinnati's obviously a cold weather team, but Josh Allen, I think, is more used to than any quarterback in football playing in the snow. Bengals played some snow games this year. Obviously, I remember that one Saturday night game, that really great game that they played against the Miami Dolphins. It became a snowstorm the 4th quarter. Didn't matter. Josh Allen was magnificent. Shifting to Mr. Allen. So, listen. His talent and his upside is undeniable. It's unbelievable. The arm, the mobility, the physical strength. You scored 10 points. I mean, I just ripped Dak. He was not as bad as Josh Allen. He wasn't. Josh was bad. Now, credit does have to go to Cincinnati's defense, a defense that I said on Friday's show, and I've been saying this for 2 months on this show. And I don't know why the media can't catch on to this. The most underrated defense in the NFL by a wide margin. Their pass rush is great. They've got Hubbard getting the quarterback. They've got that DJ Reader who's excellent inside. Mike Hilton. I mean, they're excellent. The problem is they don't really have that many big name players. But that said, if we're going to criticize some of the best, the 40 million plus guys for not playing up to standard, we can't. Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, we have to put Josh Allen right in that group in terms of how we criticize him, how we look at him. Bro, that was bad. You look at Josh Allen's numbers yesterday. 25 for 42, 280, 265, not bad. A touchdown, a terrible interception, a QBR 57, that's not awful, but a passer rating of 68. That is with Stephon Diggs. That is with Gabriel Davis. That is with Dawson Knox. So, and something else too, the Bills are kind of going backwards if you think about it. Think about this. So they draft Josh Allen in 2018. He has an awful rookie year. The Bills, as they, up until 2019, 2020, kind of were in the cellar of the NFL, the kind of the laugh out loud type franchises. So the Bills were bad in 2018. Josh Allen was terrible as rookie year. Completed like 50% of his passes. That's like Tebow numbers. Year 2, they get to the playoffs. And they almost win that playoff game against the Houston Texans. 2020, Josh Allen is an MVP candidate, and they win not 1, but 2 playoff games and get to the AFC Championship game. Last year, they lost in the divisional round, but it was in maybe the greatest playoff game of all time, in maybe the greatest quarterback duel of all time between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Both literally could not have played better. They were magnificent. It's unlike anything I've ever seen in my life, that game last year between those two. And so we go into this season, we're like, okay, Buffalo didn't make the AFC title game this year, but I mean, come on, there's no shame in losing to Patrick Mahomes on the road at Arrowhead. I mean, they upgraded their defense. There's the continuity with Allen and the weapons he has around him. And the offensive, although Brian Dable did leave, and that seemed to leave a really big gap, really big hole in Buffalo's offensive scheme. Maybe that had something to do with it. But they're going backwards. They were everybody's pick, not mine. My pick was worse. I picked the Denver Broncos to go to the Super Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. But they were everybody's preseason pick. Oh, Buffalo's going to the Super Bowl. Forget about Kansas City. Forget about, Cincinnati and Baltimore. Buffalo's going to the Super Bowl. They don't even reach the conference championship game when they had home field advantage in the divisional round. It'd be one thing. I look at this game a whole lot differently if this loss was like last year's loss of the Chiefs, where it's 2 of the best in the game, Burrow, Allen going back and forth, throw for throw, up and down the field. Wasn't like that at all. I mean, Cincinnati, it was apparent 4 minutes, 5 minutes in the game. Okay, they're the better team. That's the better quarterback. That's the better coach. That's the better defense. And incredibly, the last thing I thought I'd be saying, that's the better offensive line. It certainly played better. So for the Bills going this offseason, look, you're going to get Von Miller back healthy next season. He is obviously in that big contract. You need to address the offensive line. You have got to address the running game. And for Josh Allen, you have got to clean up the turnovers. I mean, this season, in how many games the Bills play? 19. Josh Allen had 33 fumbles and interceptions. 33 in 19 games. He's being loosey-goosey with the football. He's put it in bad spots. And it's something that I've always talked about with big arm quarterbacks. And this is why Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes as well, because Mahomes used to be a little like this, but he's gotten out of it as he's gotten older. Mahomes and Herbert don't do this. They're the exception to this rule I have about big arm quarterbacks. The guys with the best arms, it's almost like they got a little bit of Favre in them. They love to show you that they've got the best arms, and oftentimes they put the ball in dangerous situations. Josh Allen's got to get out of that. Now, again, he can. It's possible. Patrick Mahomes had a similar situation, similar issue, where he wanted to show his amazing arm every play. Not so much anymore. He can get out of it, but he's got to start this offseason without a doubt for the Bills to go anywhere. Patrick Brown, Cincinnati came out on a mission, jumped the Bills early, and never looked back. I mean, that's the thing. 3 drives in the game. Bengals get the ball, Bills get the ball, Bengals get the ball. 3 drives in the game, 14-0 Cincinnati. I was like, you said it best, Patrick. They came out in a mission. They made it apparent from the jump who was the better team. Patrick Brown, your thoughts on Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs? I don't make anything out of it. For those of you that don't know what I'm referring to, there was a video from the sideline of Josh Allen sitting on the sideline. You see the quarterbacks on the sideline looking at the tablet, which, by the way, I don't know how you see that tablet through all that snow. But still, you can see, obviously, number 14, Stephon Diggs goes over to Josh Allen. He's throwing his hands up, yelling at him. I don't think that's a big issue. Go back and look at how they talk about each other. They had him mic'd up with Allen and Diggs on Thanksgiving. They were talking about, man, I love you, bro. I love you too, man. I'm thankful for you. There's no animosity. It's a guy in Stephon Diggs who wants to win. They used to make a big deal years ago about Dez Bryant. Oh, he's a cancer on the sideline. He's yelling. He's griping. Good. I want him to. I'd much rather be in like that than be all silent by himself, sulky on the sideline. I want a guy with passion. Stephon Diggs was showing that. He's frustrated with this quarterback. It's fine. That, Allen Diggs is, from everything that I've followed and understood about them, they're as close as you could be to brothers without being related by blood. So I don't think there's any real legitimate animosity between them. Listen, when things aren't going your way, tempers are going to flare. It's football. Again, football is by definition, I talk about this all the time, football by definition is moving another grown man against his will. Now, that's not really Stephon Diggs' job or Josh Allen's job, but that's the game, essentially. Every yard counts, every inch counts. So that's I don't really make a big deal of that at all. Now, shifting back to the NFC, which, by the way, I had an amazing wild card weekend. I went 5-1 on my picks. Not quite as successful in the divisional round. I got the first game right, Kansas City, Jacksonville, and went 0-3 from there. So, hope to rebound in the conference title games and in the Super Bowl. If I can finish 3-0, finish the postseason with 4 losses, I'll take that. It'll be an improvement from last year. I think I got like 6 games wrong 5 or 6 games wrong. So it'll be improvement. 2020 is the best year I've ever had predicting games. I mean, before that season, I said Tampa Bay, Kansas City in the Super Bowl. And I mean, and not to mention in that playoffs, I went like 4-2 in the wild card round, and I went undefeated after that. So, it's always the goal. No undefeateds from here on, but we'll see. Anyways, Philadelphia. They spanked the New York Giants. There's no other way around it. 38-7. That's just it was a complete mismatch from the get-go. This was my upset of the week. I said Giants are coming in with momentum. Philadelphia can't stop the run. They haven't stopped the run all season. For the record, they really didn't stop the run on Saturday. The Giants got 6 yards of carry. That could hurt them against the 49ers next week, so we'll see. But aside from that, I don't think any other team was more impressive, with all due respect to Cincinnati, than the Philadelphia Eagles. You go into the playoffs with no momentum. None. The last healthy game Jalen Hurts played, he was bad against the Chicago Bears. You lose to Dallas with Gardner Minshew. You lose to New Orleans with Gardner Minshew. You beat the Giants with a badly injured Jalen Hurts, but it's the Giants' backups, and you won by 6 at home. Well, as I said at the beginning of today's show, looks like a bye was just what the doctor ordered. It looks like a bye was exactly what the Eagles needed. They scored in their opening drive. Devontae Smith, I believe, is who it was who got in the end zone. They got a big play down the field to him. Or it might have been Dallas Goedert. I can't remember. It was either Devontae or Dallas Goedert. Yeah, it was Dallas Goedert. My bad. Giants got a decent little drive going there. Got stopped on 4th down, and it was total domination from there. Daniel Jones looked like Daniel Jones did before this season. Even had looked at times throughout this season. And Jalen Hurts said after the game, he's still definitely not 100%. Well, if Jalen Hurts is, quote, still not 100%, is 16 of 24, only 154 yards, but 2 touchdowns, 34 rush yards, a rushing touchdown, a pass rating of 112, and a QBR of 84. If that, my friends, is Jalen Hurts' B-plus game, oh, man, the NFC's lucky he's not fully healthy. This looks like the Philadelphia Eagles team we saw like late October, early November. That was just smoking everybody. Defensively, they were all over the field. Now, again, some of this was that the Giants, I said coming into the postseason, I did my postseason weaknesses for all 14 playoff teams. My weaknesses for the Giants were limitations at quarterback and limitations at wide receiver. Looks like I got that one right. Receivers could not separate, and the quarterback was completely off his game. Daniel Jones was, without a question, the worst quarterback of the weekend. He was terrible. He had a QBR of like 11. His pass rating was in the 50s. He was bad. But this Eagles defense getting Darius Slay, and again, going back to what I said about, sort of my takeaway from this divisional weekend was that unless you have Mahomes or Burrow, Lawrence on the precipice, but he's not there yet. You have to build a literally perfect roster around your quarterback to make a run. That's what the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a tremendous talent. He's absolutely one of the 10 best in the NFL. But he's not a guy who's going to carry you there. So what the Eagles do, they're like, okay, well, he's selling a rookie deal. Let's go for it. Let's go get James Bradberry from the New York Giants. Let's go get an A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans. Let's be aggressive in the offseason. That's why I always say. That's why I love the Warriors. That's why I wish the Warriors would make a trade pretty soon. That's why I love what the Rams did last year. What the Niners did this year with Christian McCaffrey. They didn't need Christian McCaffrey, but gives them a lot better chance to win the Super Bowl now that they have him. Go for it. If you have an opportunity, you have a team you feel like is on the precipice of winning a championship, go all in. Howie Roseman, again, has proven himself to be one of the better general managers of the league. He drafts exceptionally well. He's great in free agency. He rarely, Carson Wentz being the exception a few years ago, gives money to guys who really don't deserve it or have earned it. And listen, I'm still a Nick Sirianni skeptic. I think of the 4 coaches left in the playoffs, I'd put him right at 4th. I think Andy Reid's the best. I put Kyle Shanahan right behind him, followed by Zach Taylor, follow a distant 4th, Nick Sirianni. But the thing I've always given Nick Sirianni, I said this back in like week 2. I remember that Monday night game. Remember when they beat Minnesota really bad? I remember saying that show a few days later on that Thursday that for as limited as Nick Sirianni feels to be, he has solid self-awareness, and that's so important. I say that because he knows he's not that great of a play caller. So what does he do? He hands it off to his OC. His OC's a better play caller. He's like, fine. Like Nick Sirianni, what I respect about him is he's not drunk off power. He took over the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021, called the plays initially, realized he wasn't good at it, and was like, okay, whatever it takes for us to win. Everybody wants to tell you that they're about winning. They'll do whatever it takes to win. Players, coaches, organizations, anybody. But as the old saying goes, actions speak louder than words. Nick Sirianni's actions have spoken louder than his words. So, and then defensively, this Eagles team just flies around the field. For, no pun intended, fly Eagles fly, right? The secondary is outstanding. I mean, the only guy they're missing is Avonte Maddox, who got hurt in the Dallas game back on Christmas Eve. Outside of that, Darius Slay is one of the best corners in the league. So James Bradberry is the best corner on most teams in the NFL. If he's your number 2, and you're going to need him next week going against the likes of Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, you're going to need him. But this Eagles team, what I respect about this coaching staff is, good Lord, does it get the best out of what it has. So hats off the Philadelphia Eagles. They're moving on to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 2017. Of course, that year they did win the Super Bowl with Doug Peterson, the head coach, Nick Foles. Taking get it back. Okay, we got it. All right, I think we got connection back. Okay. Okay, we're going in and out of internet connection on. But as now, we're still live. We're still good. Okay, that was very weird. Again, if the show goes out, please let me know in the comments. See them.